Thank you very much. Right.
When George Osborne said national interest, he means interest of the Tory party. And when he says hard-working families, he usually means voters in marginal seats who he thinks he can bribe.
Now, you'll recall that after the financial statement from the government in Westminster last December, the Independent Office of Budget Responsibility produced a graph showing that the Tories planned within 4 years to cut UK government back as a proportion of the national economy to where it had been in the 1930s, before the war, before Clement Attlee, before the welfare state or the NHS had been created.
But the spin doctors told Osborne that he'd gone too far. Folk memories of pre-war Britain are still alive.
Osborne's latest ploy, we saw in the budget, has been to pencil in a spending rise in the last year of the next Westminster Parliament. But that can't disguise their basic ambition, we argue. This government is, and would continue to be, Thatcherism turbocharged.
She sold off the nationalised industries. They've gone far to privatise or to simply abandon the social state itself.
But, generalising across the UK, you'd have to say some people have prospered.
Such as older people who tend to vote Tory. In England, council spending on social care has been cut by a fifth in 5 years. Eligibility criteria have tightened. 500,000 fewer old people have received any care at all, at a time when the number of older people has increased by 10%.
But pensions have been protected in cash, triple locked, guaranteed to rise faster indeed than average pay.
And thanks to the Cameron government, the money that you previously would have used to buy an annuity, you can now go out and blow on a Lamborghini.
In England, at the other end of the age range, the proportion of young people unable to afford homes of their own is growing. A fifth of 28-year-olds are now still living with mum and dad, not at their own choice.
Not by mum and dad's often either. UK-wide, if you're disabled, you are less likely to get support, as 20% of people are being cut out of disability living allowance. To get help, you have to undergo an intrusive work capability assessment, often done very hurriedly by people unqualified for the task.
Across the UK, adults of working age have seen their real wages fall. A 28-year-old earning, say, £280 a week in 2010 is now taking home £245 a week.
Child benefit has been cut. The baby tax credit has been abolished. In England, over 800 Sure Start children's centres have been shut. The cost of childcare has risen. Real spending per child fell by a quarter.
Official figures say that unemployment has fallen from 8.5% in 2011 to below 6% now, but 1 in 5 16 to 24-year-olds is out of work.
And what kind of jobs are people getting? 1 in 7 of the workforce now say that they're self-employed, with average earnings of just £10,000. And many hundreds of thousands are existing on 0 hours contracts at the beck and call of bad employers.
In health, let's just briefly recall the English situation. With the NHS, Cameron said, trust me. Annual NHS spending would rise, he said, and so it did, by 0.6% a year. That's 5 times less than the average annual increase in NHS spending since 1948, and at a time when the population has been growing and, let's face it, aging, and when social care has been cut back steeply.
Cameron's team is going into the election trying to avoid talking too much about the NHS, as if we could forget, in England, the 2012 Health and Social Care Act. It attempts to insert into the NHS a new market dynamic, the result of which still could be its destruction.
Now, I won't trouble you, for obvious reasons, with their free schools and academies created without any evidence for their educational effectiveness, sucking capital out of areas desperately needing new school places, often towards already advantaged children and districts.
Let me explain that word coup. David used the synonym masterstroke. And people are a bit puzzled about the title of our book, saying, but you know, Cameron looks a moderate kind of man, bland, traditional sort of upper-class Tory. He doesn't look like a swivel-eyed fanatic. He doesn't look like a great ideologue. And I think that's what's been so clever about their whole enterprise. I mean, we say it was a coup because none of it was revealed before the election. Cameron said the opposite to get elected. Here's what Osborne said. When countries undertake major consolidations, it is the poorest, those who had least to do with the cause of the economic misfortunes, who are hit hardest. The coalition will be different. When we say we're all in this together, we mean it.